Zealand. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Peeni Henare, tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Look, and in the vein of much of the contribution earlier this evening, sir, I'd like to start with a theme. From the 1976 album A Night on the Train, tonight is definitely the night. Tonight's the night, sir, when we debate this particular bill, the Land Transport Amendment Bill. And my colleague here, Sue Moroney, talked about Rod Stewart and how Rod Stewart presented to the Select Committee and really pointed out the flaws, the discrepancies, the ease with which he was able to exploit this particular system. And for the purposes of natural justice, sir, his particular case was shared with some of the Uber and others that were involved, are involved in this particular space, and none of them had an answer. None of them were able to rebuff the fact that this particular gentleman actually flouted the rules, flouted the system, and was able to get away with it. So sticking with the Rod Stewart theme, sir, well, yeah, you know, he's a great singer, married to one of our locals, so we might as well stick with it. Well, he was, yeah. I could give a bloody good quote of his, but anyway. Look, I'm glad to hear the member from Epsom, the member for Epsom, sir, mention how tonight the good people of Epsom will be able to sleep well this evening. For fear of fare evaders storming through Epsom, running riot across Epsom, and there's no ability in the old legislation to actually hold them accountable for evading fares. So we support that particular part of the bill, sir. But what we did question, and we did during the Select Committee process, sir, was okay, we can allow for more police officers and other officers of the council to crack down on fare evasion, but that only works if you actually resource them to do it. Resource them to do it. We certainly don't expect our upstanding policemen and women across the country to be standing outside a train station waiting for anybody who happen to evade a fare of $4, and make sure that they throw the book at them, and the heavy hand of the law comes down on that person who, for one reason or another, who knows, might have caught the train in South Auckland, had no money. We understand the poverty issues, but I digress, sir. So we support this particular part of the bill, but wonder whether or not it comes with the resources to make sure that the legislation as described here in this bill is actually carried out. Sir, I also want to pick up the point made by Mr. Young, the chairman of the Select Committee, about the need, how he mentioned some of the apps that are currently available for those who are vision impaired are able to talk to them, so there isn't a need for Braille. I can be, when the submitters came to the Select Committee, sir, they made it very clear that a lot of that technology for those vision impaired people is still very expensive. Very, very expensive, and many of the vision impaired community were unable to afford many of those particular pieces of technology to allow them to be able to enjoy a passenger service, in particular in Tāmaki Makaurau in Auckland, sir. So just to the point that the chairman of the Select Committee made, it's all fair and well to say that the technology exists and is available there for them, but the fact of the matter is it isn't available to all of them, which is why we'll be supporting wholeheartedly the amendments that will be proposed by my colleague here, Sue Moroney, about the small compliance costs to make sure that there is Braille available on a taxi, so that those who are vision impaired are able to actually understand that this is who this person is, this is the service that they provide, and should anything happen to them, they'll know who that person is. We heard I thought, a quite harrowing story from one submitter who actually feared for their life. Feared for their life as a vision-impaired person catching a taxi, explained how they were taken to a place where they weren't comfortable, the kind of conversation, the inability for the driver to explain exactly what was happening and where they were going, left this particular submitter in fear for their life, sir. So we'll be supporting the amendment that will be proposed by Sue Moroney to ensure that that small compliance cost surely can be met to make sure that that community are looked after, sir. So, and also the other one, cameras being available in all taxis. Sir, the chairperson of the Select Committee talked about how technology is, it's the now, it's the future. And we do know that with this technology, sir, and the market the way that it is, cameras and such apparatus for a taxi are actually quite cheap and easy to install. So it's important that for the matters of the safety of the drivers and the passengers, that this actually be a compliance that's required for all who are operating in this space, sir. So we will be supporting the proposed amendment from Sue Moroney on that matter, sir. The other ones are pretty straightforward, sir. Look, of course we support the drink driving interlocks right across the House, and I take the point made by the member Julianne Genter. I think we actually made it better. We did. The Select Committee worked hard. There was rigorous debate. Those that came to explain the technology and the science of it, I think that through the debate in the Select Committee, it was made better and stronger, because we all agree. We want to take recidivist drink drivers off the road, drink drivers full stop off the roads, to make sure that those who use our transport system are safe. And sir, to another point that I think my colleague Julianne Genter touched on, and that is actually the sad fact that this government looked at this particular bill as almost in a silo, when really what we should have been considering when we looked at this bill was actually a broader look at our transport system, in particular in Tāmaki Makaurau, sir. In particular in Tāmaki Makaurau, we need legislation that will actually force a change to the way we think about our transport network in Tāmaki Makaurau. So while this particular bill goes some way to doing that, it's only a small part, which is where I take the point made by Mr O'Rourke in saying that this bill is in some parts quite substandard. But we will be supporting the bill on, the Labour Party will be supporting this bill, sir, in particular the proposed amendments that will come up, no doubt, in the next stage of this bill, proposed by my colleague here, Sue Moroney. That one, of course, is about the cameras, compulsory to have cameras in those in taxi services, and also the relatively small compliance costs to make sure that Braille is available to the visually impaired community who rely on these services. And Julianne Genter explained it quite well, that they are quite vulnerable. In fact, they're very vulnerable. They rely on a sound, strong transport system that looks after their safety, but also allows them to participate in our communities far and wide, sir. So, look, without going on too much longer, sir, I just wanted to stand up in support of this bill, but also point out some of the flaws that we encountered as this bill went through the Select Committee, and hope that in its next stage further debate will be able to take place, and we'll get the support needed across the House for the sensible and smart amendments that will be proposed by Sue Moroney and certainly the Labour Party. We support this bill.
Members, this debate is concluded.